Join the chat. Let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, afternoon, depending on where you are tuned in from. Welcome to another episode of the Happy Hour Show with Lindsey Vertner. I am your host, Lindsey Vertner. I am a peak potential strategist and transformational speaker. I teach ambitious, busy female entrepreneurs how to master their mindset and increase their self-care, self-worth, and self-discipline. That is who I am, and I'm excited to introduce tonight's guest. But before we do that, I need for you to grab your drink and join the chat. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from. And if you are catching the replay, comment replay all day. But if you're watching live right now, comment all the way live. We love our live viewers because we get the opportunity to engage and interact with you in real time. But hey, if you're catching the replay, that's still all right. Still leave your comments and we will go back and check on those at a later time. So make sure you comment, love, share this video out, especially for the parents out there. And if you aren't a parent yourself, then I'm sure you know some parents. So share, because I already know there's going to be lots and lots and lots of good parenting gems dropped on tonight's episode. Because let me wait no longer and introduce tonight's parenting strategist. She is Carol Muleta, and I'm so excited to have her. She's a certified parent educator and consultant and creator of the Parenting 411. Which is a portal where she engages parents, taking them from overwhelmed to overjoyed. She guides them in building strong family connections and fostering their children's success in academics and in life. She was named the 2019 DC Mother of the Year by American Mothers, Inc., and she hosts the Parenting 411 radio show where she explores various matters affecting family life, from discipline and communications to work-life harmony and co-parenting. So I'm super excited to have tonight's guest on the show, Miss Carol. Welcome to the Happy Hour Show. How are you?
I am fine, Lindsey. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So I know I just gave a super quick rundown of your nice long resume, and there's so much more that I didn't even mention, but I want you to peel back the curtains and take us back a little. Give us the tea on who is Carol really.
Okay, well, Carol really is a native of Washington, D.C., born and raised. I live in Northern Virginia right now with my family. I've lived here for about 27 years. My husband and I are the parents of twin sons who are now juniors in college. So we are enjoying the empty nest. Just, really enjoying being able to pick up and go places when we want to, or chill out if we want to, and just not worry about having to pick people up or drop people off or things like that. We miss our boys, love our boys, but this is an exciting time in our life.
Nice. So, sometimes people are like, oh, I want to have kids. But then sometimes there are those people that are like, I don't want kids. So what would you say for you? Like, have you always wanted children since you were a little girl, or was that something that you grew into? Like, give us that journey. What did that look like for you?
Well, growing up, for sure, playing with dolls and Barbie dolls and all of that, my girlfriends and I certainly created this world for ourselves, naming our kids these cute little names and all of that. So I will honestly say I love the idea of children. And I really thought it's something, grown folks do. You get married, have children and all of that. But I really wasn't somebody that really thought about it all the time, babysat for children all the time. I didn't have a lot of experience with children before I had children. I mean, I have cousins and I have lots of nieces, but so it really was when I became a mother that I just really took in the wonder of it all and realizing the awesome responsibility and the awesome ministry that parenting is.
Nice. I love that you called parenting a ministry because, anything that we're doing is essentially a ministry in that walk of life. So at what point during your parenting time did you really understand, like, oh my goodness, this is a ministry. I got to watch what I do.
Absolutely. So when my sons were about 2.5, I started taking parenting classes for myself. I was just wanting to be the best parent I could be, and I really wanted to understand them. Neither of them was exactly like me. All of them they both had a little bit of my personality in them. And so I really wanted to nurture them for the unique individuals that they were. I didn't want to treat the twins as like one unit either. That was something else I was concerned about. So I took parenting classes. And so what I came to see, though, was that just as I'm sitting back, like, why don't they listen to me? Why is he doing that? I told him not to do that. And it hit me one day. I said, I bet God's thinking that. Like, why is she engaging with that person? Or why is she going to that place? Why is she behaving that way? She knows better, that kind of thing. And that's when I realized that that my walk with my children was very similar to my walk with God. And that it was really my job to teach them like disciples, and which of course is part of the root word for discipline, teaching your children. So that was pretty early on when I realized this isn't just, because I think for some parents, they are happy to have the children, but then, when it gets challenging, they're just like, oh, I can't wait until they're 2, I can't wait till they're 3, I can't wait till they get through this phase. And I'm like, parenthood is not something to be gotten through. This is a sacred duty and it's a ministry. So that's when I came to realize that.
I love that you said parenting is not something to be gotten through, because unfortunately, that's the way a lot of parents are feeling. Like, I just got to get through this. I got to get them till they're 18, or I got to get them through this stage, and then I'm done with it. So what would you say are the top 3 struggles that you find most parents have while parenting children?
Okay, well, absolutely. Why don't they listen to me? That's first of all. Like, why, I told them what I wanted them to do. Why aren't they doing it? Also, it is the matter of technology, which is a big thing. Why are children so obsessed with technology? Why do I have such a hard time getting them off of that? And then just really, trying to just stay connected with their children. I mean, we're living in a busy world, and it can just really be hard to connect with their children. So that's what I'm hearing a lot of as well.
Nice. So why don't they listen to me? Why are they so dependent on technology? Mm-hmm. And then how can I connect with my children? Those are the top 3 struggles?
Yes.
So what would be some tips on the first one? Why don't they listen to me?
So when I talk to parents, and we're talking about discipline, that's the main thing. And they're not often very much talking about teaching. They're just like, I want the child to do what I want them to do, or they come with a particular problem. And what I try to talk to them about is the teaching, how important it is to look at this as really teaching them. They haven't been here. They just got here, compared to us. And so they're just really trying to figure out how to play this game of life. And we have to look at ourselves as the coach. And so I have 5 C's that I talk to parents about in terms of building up that relationship where children understand what you want them to do. So first of all, there has to be a connection. They have to know that you're coming from a place of love and positive regard for them when you're asking them to do things. Next is, so it's connection, then communication that is clear and concise. Like, don't assume that they should know better, or don't assume that they should know how to do things just because they've seen you do it. Take the time to teach them. Next, you've got to give them a compass. And what I'm talking about there are the boundaries. Let them know the boundaries, but then give them the freedom within those boundaries to get things done. Next, help them to realize they have choices. A lot of times children believe that adults, their parents, they're the boss, they have all the power, and they have none. But actually, they have a lot of choice about what happens to them. The behavior that they choose results in the 5th C, consequences. And, it's very important to let them experience consequences, and also to not hold out consequences as always being negative. Consequences are really just something that happens as a result of action or lack of action that you take. So they're good consequences too. And so it's very nice to let children make choices and then sit back and see, this is what happens when I clean up my room, when I do my homework. I have more time to play with my friends, or I'm able to, maybe I am able to spend some time on my tablet, or I can watch a movie that I want to see on TV because I have the time, because I did the other things that I'm responsible for. So those are really key, honestly, to number one, well, really to all of them.
I love that.
That model. Mm-hmm.
You are just tuning in. You are watching the Happy Hour Show with Lindsey Vertner and my very beautiful guest, Miss Carol Muleta. And she just shared 5 C's to help build your relationship with your child, with your children. And I think they're really key. So I'm going to see if I can say them back. I just put them on the screen there. So 1, building that connection with your child, just understanding that they are human too, with all of their own feelings. And then 2 is clear and concise communication, which I think this is a struggle even for a lot of adults. Like, you'd be surprised how many adults don't know how to effectively communicate. And then we expect our children to be great communicators. And it's like, wait a minute, you don't even know how to communicate yourself. So clear and concise communication, because we have to remember that they haven't been here as long as us. And so, what may come easily to us may not be so easily to them. But also, if we struggle communicating our needs and our emotions, then we have to definitely understand that our children are going to struggle in that area as well, because they're learning from us. So I think number 2 is my favorite of what you said, because we could all use better communicating skills, especially if you have children, especially if you have a significant other, just especially in life, period. And then you said number 3 was giving them a compass, which is boundaries. And I am all for boundaries in every relationship that you have, including parenting and everything. So letting them know that they have their guidelines, and they can explore all within those guidelines, but don't step out of those guidelines. And then number 4, you said letting them know that they have choices. I like that one too, because oftentimes, the kids, they're expected to yield to adults and do everything that the adults say. But unfortunately, us adults are not always right. And sometimes we don't like to admit that. And so I think that is very helpful to let the children know that, hey, you have choices too. You want to wear a blue shirt or a red shirt. You want to make a decision as a leader or not a leader. And then 5, helping them to understand consequences, positive consequences, as well as negative consequences. And I don't know about you, and you can chime in on this, but I feel like from what I've observed in my lifetime, we put a lot of focus on the negative consequences and not enough focus on the positive consequences. So what would you say, like, what's your insight on that area?
Well, I think it's rooted in the fact that, honestly, to most of us, discipline means punishment. I mean, parents will say they're interested in discipline, but what they're really talking about, if they're honest, is I want the child to hurt or pay for that misbehavior, as opposed to I want the child to learn that that's not appropriate and that this other behavior is what we're trying to get him or her to learn how to do. So, because that's what it is, and it goes back to what we talked about in the beginning about discipline. At the root of it, it's about teaching. It's not about making people feel bad for doing things wrong. Yet it's okay to allow them to experience the consequences of those actions, but not to get in the middle and make sure they hurt or make sure they feel bad about themselves, like, pile on to what already could be a reasonable consequence. So, like, for example, if your child loses his jacket at school or whatever, and it's cold, so he already has to get on the bus and come home, and he lost his jacket. It's not like, yeah, look at you can't keep up with things. Yeah, you see what happened. Yeah, you were cold, right? As opposed to, well, you'll need to wear your other jacket, or you might need to use some of your allowance to help pay and get another one. I mean, you don't have to go overboard and be like, I need every dime out of your bank account to buy this jacket. But for them to contribute to buying another jacket, that's a lesson learned for them without us piling on and making them feel bad about losing the jacket to begin with.
I like that. Discipline is all about learning and teaching moments.
Right. Absolutely. And they can learn the lesson. I mean, like, again, the child who left his jacket, he feels bad enough. He feels bad. You don't have to add to that. It was an uncomfortable ride home, or walk home, in the cold without the jacket and whatever. Anybody feels bad enough anyway. So you don't have to add to it and label and all of that.
Yes, that is so good. And it actually makes me think of a story. And after I tell this story, I want us to get into a segment. But one time, I don't remember what the discussion was about, but it was something along the lines of, just breaking those parental habits that sometimes we fall into just because, oh, my mom did it and her mom did it and his dad did it and our parents did it, and falling in that habit. But it was along the lines of, there was this young lady, and she was very vulnerable in sharing her story that she has issues with her mother on today because when she was a teenager, she worked 2 jobs in order to pay for herself to go to school. And I think she had a single parent household, and she was working those 2 jobs, and she was keeping that money, I think, under her mattress. And then I guess her mom was cleaning and found the money and like scolded her, like, oh my gosh, you're not helping with these bills all of this time. You've had this money, and essentially took all the money that she had raised to help her pay for her to go to college. And so, like, that story just really touched my heart, as far as like, I feel so bad for you. Like, it's not even my fault, but I feel so bad for you because it made me think about all of the cycles that sometimes we unintentionally put our children through, especially for those that maybe grew up in poverty with less money or things like that. But she had a lot of resentment and hatred towards her mother for that because she was not able to go to school. Eventually, as she got older, she was able to go back, but she never actually went back for what she was going to go for, which was like an engineer or something like that. And it caused a lot of issues between her and her parent. And it's like, we shouldn't want our children to struggle the same way that we maybe struggled growing up, especially for those that grew up maybe in abusive households where they were constantly getting yelled at or things like that. So I love that you brought that up.
Wow. That's a powerful story. I mean, there's so many unfortunate issues in there. I mean, there's kind of a trust that was broken. And yeah.
So that's something like I try to urge, like, I hate whenever I see people living for their parents rather than living for themselves, which I know can be a very touchy situation. And then us as parents, we have to be mindful that our children are their own little people. And rather than try to mold them into something, we should be encouraging and supporting them with who they are and in their skills and their talents, because they're different from us.
That's a big challenge too. That could have gone on the list that you mentioned earlier in the show. Yes, there's a lot of that where parents think that their children should respond to situations the way they would. They should like the sports they liked or other interests. And often it's really the parent just kind of trying to fulfill some dreams that they didn't.
Right?
That they didn't get to see to fruition through their children, sadly.
Yes. And I want you to share a tip about that. But over here in the comments, Miss Angel says, hello. Miss Cynthia says, very difficult with that strong-willed child or attention deficit, hyperactive children or challenged children. And so I want you to hold that thought, because there's two things that, look, let me write it down right now. We're going to come back to this comment, and we're going to come back to something else that was just said. And before we do that, I think that it's a great time to just take a quick break and find out exactly, if you might know what's coming up if you watched the show before, but find out.
What's in your cup?
Yes, we are breaking from our conversation very quickly to find out what's in your cup. This is the segment of the show where we find out what our special guest, the lovely Carol Muleta, is drinking in her cup. And then she's going to give us some cup cam. So for all of you viewers and listeners, put in the comments what you're drinking on at home. And if you don't have a drink in your hand, then what were you thinking? Put what you wish you were drinking on and then go fix it for yourself later on, okay? So, Miss Carol, what is in your cup?
Lemon zinger tea.
Lemon zinger tea. Is it sweetened or did you just have it straight?
I would love to tell you that I just had it straight, but it has a little artificial sweetener in it. It does.
That still sounds on the healthier side. You said artificial sweetener, not just tossing in some sugar like I do. And then give us some cup cam. Show us that lovely cup. I'm eager to see.
So it is a cup from Ethiopia. It's fine china from Ethiopia.
Ooh, fine china from Ethiopia. I like it. So over here in the comments, let's see what our viewers are drinking. Angel says, oops, the comments were going too fast. Sipping on ginger ale. Are you eating your saltine crackers with that?
I like ginger ale too.
And Miss Kenitra is having some Sprite. Hashtag pour it up. Yes. I love Sprite. That's probably like my usual number one pop drink of everything. So if you are tuning in, make sure you put what you're sipping on in your cup down in the comments. As for me, so I thought that I was going to be drinking solely water for the next 6 weeks because I'm on like this healthy eating plan and this fitness plan that's 6 weeks long. But I recently found out that I can drink some other things besides water. I can drink decaf tea, unsweetened. So what's the point of that? I like sweet tea. And I can also drink diet soda. Now, I'm not usually one for diet soda. And so I figure the zero sugars, those are the same as diet soda, right? Because I have to keep carbohydrates and sugars low in like my meal plan. And so I'm drinking root beer, but it's zero sugar root beer in my nice little frosted mug cup here. Yeah, and it actually tastes pretty good. So I have some zero sugar Sprite, that's Sprite Zero. So hey, Kanitra, Sprite Zero. And then I have A&W root beer Zero. So that is what I'm sipping on. Miss Cynthia has plain water. Ugh. Listen, water is good for you. Water is good for you. Or you can always add some flavors, the little flavor packets and things like that. Miss Sierra is drinking on chocolate milk. Love it. You'll have to let us know if it was homemade chocolate milk or if it was already pre-made from the store or if you use the powder or the syrup. Like, let us know how you make your chocolate milk, Sierra. So I love it. Let's get back into this conversation. And so we were talking about, you know, how our children can be different from us. And then sometimes we unintentionally pass down our toxic traits onto our children. Like in the case with the young lady whose mother took all of the money that she had saved and put it towards the bills when she was saving for college, instead of praising her and encouraging her that she even wanted to go to college. So what tips or advice would you give to the parents out there who have a little trouble letting their kid be a kid?
Well, really that connection piece is very important. So really get to know your children and explore things that they're really interested in. And I mean, if there is something that you enjoyed doing when you were younger or you wish you had done, you can introduce it and see if they like it or if they're interested in it, then try it. If not, that's just another piece of what they can know about you. Like, you know, I really wish that I had, you know, I liked gymnastics when I was younger, for example, and I wish I had put in more time with that. Or, you know, a real life example for myself. When I was younger, I really liked singing. And when I got to high school, I went to a high school that was very well known for its music program and its choirs and all of that. But I just didn't do it. I didn't want to do it. My brother had done it ahead of me. You know, he was a few years ahead of me, so I didn't want to follow that. So that's something that I wish I had done. That's something I could share with my child. Like, you know, it's something I wish I had done. And, you know, it's really important to pursue what you're interested in. And, you know, like that is something that I love, singing. And neither of my children, one of my sons was very good at it, but wasn't very interested. And my other son's not very interested. And that's okay, you know. And so I think that's really, you've got to really recognize it in yourself. Like say, wait a minute, this is kind of my thing. This is my dream. Recognize that. And then, if you have time, go pursue it. You know, it's never too late to be who you want to be. So, you know, go on and pursue it because, you know, funny enough, another thing that I wished I had done when I was younger was learn how to play basketball. And so both of my sons played. One played, you know, really enjoyed the game and really played at a competitive level. And you know what? I found out there was in our neighborhood at the recreation center, they had a women's basketball league. So I went and learned how to play, you know, and so, you know, you can also get interest and get, you know, new hobbies and learn new things from your kids too. Like, I mean, really them getting interested in it really got me fired up about it. And it was something that I really enjoyed doing. I hope to get back to it, you know, when the pandemic's over.
letting your kid be themselves and being aware. That's what I noticed you said, in different words, just having that self-awareness to know that, this is my child's life and I have to allow my child to live it, offering them different options. So, for example, I secretly hoped that I would be a basketball mom, and I'm not. I wanted to go to the basketball games and be like, "Did you see my son shoot that 3-point? Yes. Did you see that run? That's my son. My son." The obnoxious mom cheering in the crowd. And so when my son was younger, I think he played for about 3 or 4 years in like the younger kids league. But as he got older, he didn't want to play basketball. And it wasn't just one of those moments where like, oh, they'll get over it, because we have our days where we love something, but we don't really feel like doing it because we want to go play or something.
Mhm.
But he consistently didn't want to play basketball. So we pulled him from basketball. And, a lot of people would be like, put him in basketball. You'll still have time. Like, just put him in it. Oh, and he's so tall. He should be playing basketball. But first of all, I know I hated that growing up. Like, you play basketball just because I was tall.
Me
I
too.
mean, I did for a little bit, but that wasn't my passion. And so that question annoyed the heck out of me. And just because my son is tall doesn't mean he has to play basketball. And if he doesn't want to play basketball, I'm not going to force him to play basketball. Do I secretly hope he goes back to it as he gets older? Yeah, but I don't see that happening. It's not looking too good for me to be a basketball mom.
And it's interesting that you would say that, because I talk about that in my book that'll be coming out soon. I talk about how I had this dream about my sons. They're both tall and they were both playing basketball, but they went to different schools and they played in different leagues. But I was obsessed with them playing basketball together. I mean, they were going to be like the twin towers of power and all of that. And I deal with that. I talk about that in the book. And, again, it's just about you want your children to reach their full potential. And so forcing them to do something that they're really not that interested in doing is really taking away from that. And so I was just much better off really respecting what each was interested in and what really fulfilled them. And so basketball and playing on the same team and taking over the world was just not their interest.
Yes. We got to let them do their own thing. And we have to be okay with that. So whatever my son decides to do, it's like, I'm going to be whatever that mom is. Right now, I'm video game mom. We still got to limit video games. But if he wants to, that might turn into being a video game creator or video game engineer or whatever the people who make video games are called. That might be his career. So there are people that are making money doing video game tournaments.
And who knows that we could be steering them away from the purpose God sent them here with, if we are pushing our agenda and pushing what we're interested in. So
right.
We do have to consider that we each have a unique purpose to fulfill, and when we don't do it, the world misses out.
Exactly. Now, I would like to revisit this comment from Cynthia, who was talking about, very difficult with strong-willed children or attention deficit children. And so what advice would you give to parents out there who just seem like they're constantly at war with their child, maybe because their child is strong-willed or have ADD or ADHD, or just very challenging? What tips would you share for them?
Well, first of all, I would say if you think sincerely that there is a concern with ADHD, and I don't mean just saying, oh, the child has ADHD, but actually that they need to see a professional to diagnose that, by all means go to do that, because early intervention is key with any kind of learning disability or any kind of challenge like that. So that would be first off. And if you find that that's the case, then consult with your child's doctor or therapist, whomever your child is working with in terms of if there's medication involved or whatever. But then also talk to your child about, make them aware of how, you can use language that they can understand. But, sometimes you have difficulty focusing. What can we do? Like figure out how you can create a space at home so that they can get their homework done and things like that. And, help them to understand what helps them to be successful and all of that. But at the same time, if your child is not, does not have a diagnosed condition, but they just are strong-willed, as the viewer said, then it's really, talking to your child, figuring out how to channel that energy. Like I had a strong-willed child. And so I gave him opportunities to use that. Like when he really wanted to be in charge or what, I gave him jobs. I gave him things that he could do. And I gave him high energy activities and things like that to really get that, because there's a lot of energy. Strong-willed children have a lot of energy. So I would find ways to like use it, running or whatever. And then, but at the same time, let them know there's a time and place for certain things. And so you've got to respect the needs of the situation. Like, if we're going out to dinner, in a restaurant or whatever, that's not the time to be jumping around and whatever. There are other people here. We can't disturb them. We're here to eat our meal and then we'll go home. Now at home, our child had a lot of energy. So we had one of those when he was little, we had one of those mini trampolines, like go jump on that, work that stuff out. And then of course we have one out in the backyard too, but, find ways that they can use the energy and all that they want and give them some positive power. So if they like to be in charge and they want to tell people what to do or whatever, well, give them a job around the house and tell us what you want us to do, like have them be in charge of perhaps, cleaning up an area or something. And it's like, we're going to help you. The other people in the family are going to help you. Give us jobs. Tell us what to do, And so let them take ownership of something, because it gets back to what I had said earlier. Children kind of look at us as having all the power and all the privilege, but there are ways that we can give them positive power so that they recognize that there will, when there's some other situations where they can't have things exactly their way, they still feel like, well, there are some things that I'm able to do. This one, and in this situation, I have to do things their way, but there are other times that I am able to have more control.
I like that, giving them that positive power. I know every now and then my kids will be like, can we have a do anything, switch roles hour where we have to do anything that I say for an hour. And I have to be very strategic with when I say yes to those moments. And so I know that some of that was geared towards like the younger children, but then what advice, because I noticed that you mentioned your boys, they're off to college, right? And you mentioned that you had a strong-willed child. And so what advice would you give to that parent that has a college age difficult or more challenging child? They may be off to college, or maybe they are still at home, but they are older than that. So they're like 19, 20. Early.
Well, then there is when the compass comes into play. There's some boundaries, like, understand that, we are sending you to college. You've said you want to go to college. You want to, you want to study. You have certain goals that you want to achieve. But at the same time, there are activities that they want to be involved in or whatever. So as long as you have an agreement about if it's grades or something like that, you need to work toward having, this grade point average that you all agree on. It can be something like that. Or, we just have to see that if you want to be involved with the dance troupe, or if you want to be involved in a sorority or a fraternity, we need to see that your grades aren't suffering, because school, for your education, is what you're there for first. I mean, so there, with older children, you're really talking about problem solving. So you're kind of saying, on the one hand, this is what you're concerned about. This is what you're interested in. And on our side, this is what we're interested in. What can we create that helps to meet both of our concerns? And what are the consequences if, either one of us doesn't meet the agreement that we come up with?
Boundaries for the older children.
It's boundaries and problem-solving skills, because they're older now, so you're not, and they're away at college, so you're not like saying, oh, you can't drive this weekend, or you can't do this or that way. But you have to have some boundaries for them to understand that if you want us to continue helping you pursue your education and all of that, they're just some basic things. I mean, we know that, when you go to college, you want to explore and meet new people and have new experiences, and at the same time recognize that we're investing in you to get your education. So don't forget that piece.
Yes. Okay. So we covered the younger children, and then we covered the kind of middle-aged children, and then we covered college-age children. And then what about the older children that are just living at home, but they aren't in college? They don't have any of those aspirations for one reason or another, and they are just living at home with mom and dad, or with just mom or with just dad. So how does that look for that situation?
So again, just have some ground rules. I mean, it's okay if, you don't want to go to college, if you don't have those aspirations. What is your plan? And how can we help you with the plan? But we just need to know what you're trying to achieve and how we can help, and how can you contribute. I mean, if you're going to live here in the house, how can you contribute in terms of helping to keep the house running, household jobs, things like that. How can you help carry the load around here in the house? It may be if they have a job, they can contribute. And again, it's more symbolic than you need to pay half this mortgage. It's not that. It's really just about being engaged, having some skin in the game, helping the family, contributing.
I agree. And definitely, because eventually you want them to be able to go out on their own. Like for me, I think of parenting as you are raising these baby birds, and eventually they have to go out and build their own nest. And so our job as parents is to make sure that they are fully capable of everything that's going to come with having their own nest, with the predators that might get them, and helping them to be best prepared to navigate those situations. But unfortunately, I see a lot where, children, young adults are babied by their parents, and then they, don't know what to do when they get out there in the world, and their child is like essentially crumbling.
And we do a tremendous disservice to them when we do that. I mean, we think we're being buddies or, avoiding conflict. But, as I say with the parents on that note, you can pay now or you can pay later, but you're going to pay. And that's the truth. I mean, you can go ahead and have the pushback, have them be upset with you, but, because you're trying to instill values and responsibility in them, so you can pay now, or you cannot do those things and, be fun mom, fun dad, don't want to put any pressure on the little kids, and then pay later because they're not ready. And they're going to have to keep coming back, leaning on you because you didn't lay that foundation.
Yes, if you missed those great tips, then make sure you go back and watch the replay after the show is over. You are watching the Happy Hour show with myself, Lindsey Vertner, and my very beautiful guest, Miss Carol Muleta. And she is a parenting strategist and host of the Parenting 411. And so I would like to ask you a sort of different type of question because, sometimes there's the older generation and they feel like, oh, I can't learn anything from you. You're just a child. Be 42 years old talking about you're just a child. Or, especially the younger that children get, then sometimes we make the mistake of thinking, oh, I can't possibly learn anything from you. But I am of the mindset that you can learn anything from anyone at any point in time, no matter their background, no matter their age or ethnicity, or anything like that. And so what would you say is one of the most important lessons that you have learned from your children?
Wow. I think I learned it very early on, and that is that they're not me. I mean, they are not. And just because I like certain things or just because I care about certain things, that doesn't mean that they necessarily will. And that's not the life that they're meant to lead. So that was a very big lesson early on. But then on an ongoing basis, I learned a lot about, for one son, I mean, he keeps me up on the politics. And, I obviously watch the news and keep up, but he really can really kind of peel back the layers and dig deep into the complexities. I mean, it's what he's studying as well in school. So that's something that I really have learned from him. And then my other son, he is just really such an observer of people, and he's just so practical and so logical. And I mean, that's somewhat the way I am, but he just, sometimes he even, breaks it down for me, like, what makes sense. He's a very, very observant of people, studies people a lot and really understands people's motivations. And he just cuts to the chase and tells you what he thinks.
Yes. Children, they can teach us so much. So as we wrap up on this hour, what are your top 3 parenting tips for all of the parents out there, all of the aspiring parents out there? And if you don't have children and you're tuning into the show tonight, share these tips with a parent that you know. Go right ahead.
Okay. The first thing we've got to do is connect with your children. Focus on the relationship, building an underlying relationship with them. It's not don't just look at them as people that you have to tell what to do all the time, what to do, what to think, and all of that. Make that underlying connection with them, and all of the teaching that you want to do with them will go so much more smoothly. They've got to know that you are invested in them as people and not just in your agenda for them. Also, allow your children to make choices. The younger, the better. And start with very basic choices so that when the stakes get higher, say when they're in middle school, they have a toolkit to work with. And allow them, some of these choices will result in some mistakes or some uncomfortable consequences. And of course, I'm not talking about health, life, danger, anything like that, but just some results that they're not happy about. Allow them to make the choices so that they can sharpen their toolkit now. And then third, I would just say, position your children to really find what makes their hearts sing and then help them go pursue it. find out what's really in their heart, what they are interested in doing, and help them to gather the skills or position them in the place to offer what they have to the world.
Great tips that you shared there. And so I know that you are a parenting strategist, and this is what you do. This is what you help with on the day-to-day basis. So tell us a little bit about your business and how you can help parents out there in the world.
Okay, so I am a parenting strategist and consultant, and I also am creator of the Parenting 411 platform, which is a place where I engage with parents through workshops, webinars, private consultations, as well as the Parenting 411 radio show. And I like to let people know that when frustrated and discouraged parents work with me, they get their joy back. And we create a parenting philosophy that complements the personality of their child, so we can restore order in the home, and moms and dads can breathe, and the child can break through to reach their full potential. And so I offer parents strategies for connecting with their children, creating positive parent-child communication, for addressing challenging behavior, and building strong family connections.
I love it. Now, you also have a resource that you would like to share with the viewers. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yes. So this is in line with something I call Parent Talks. Every Friday on my social media, I post a conversation starter for parents so that we can really just take that time to get out of the rat race a little bit and just converse with them, ask them questions. So again, these are conversation starters, and I have compiled a list of 10 that for your viewers, and they can pick that up at www.carolmuleta.com/happy-hour-show. So again, that's carolmuleta.com/happy-hour-show. It's a great way to connect with your children and for them to realize that you see them, like you really understand them and you want to get to know them. And really through the conversation, they get to learn more about you. You know, you're not just mom or you're not just dad, you're a person. You were once a little girl or you were once a little boy and can relate to a lot of what they're experiencing right now. And then look how I turned out. So it does get easier, you know, like one day you will have power, you know, the children will have power and be able to make decisions that they want to make.
Awesome. So get your list of conversation starters to help build that connection with your children. Once again, at www.carolmuleta.com/happy-hour-show. And for my audio listeners out there, that is carolmuleta.com/happy-hour-show. So it has been a great hour, and I know that all of the parents are thankful out there for these amazing tips that you shared. No wonder you are the parenting strategist. And so any last words of advice you would like to share for the viewers and the listeners on parenting, on balancing life and parenting, just whatever comes to mind? What are your last words?
Well, the word is that I hope that parents are really leaning into this time, finding the silver lining in this pandemic life. It's not comfortable, but you know, make those connections, enjoy the time that you have with your children, because you know, when things open up, people are going to be going here, there, and everywhere, and you just might not have this kind of time again unless you're intentional about making it. And I hope that you really will. Don't go back to business as usual. Exactly.
I love that. Do not go back to business as usual when the world opens up again. opens up again, definitely be intentional about making that time. So we are at the top of the hour. I want to thank our phenomenal guest, Ms. Carol Muleta, parenting strategist. Make sure you reach out to her. You see her info right there on the screen, carolmuleta.com. Follow her on Instagram at the_parenting_411. Tell them where they can tune into your radio show, the Parenting 411.
Sure, at WOOB 1010 AM, and also on the day of my show, which is the second and fifth Fridays of every month at 1 p.m., they can also go to www.wolbbaltimore.com. They can also visit my website, carolmuleta.com, and see previous episodes that they might have missed. And there's also information there about my upcoming book called Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems for My Journey.
Oh, nice. So listen, you have to tell us before you go a little bit more about this upcoming book. Go ahead and tell us what it's all about. Say that title again.
Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems for My Journey. And so it's really based on my journey as a mother of my twin sons that I shared. And I kind of walk them through and I share, I have 7 pillars. And so I share anecdotes as well as lessons learned. Those are the gems from my journey.
Nice, nice. So again, if you are just tuning in, you missed it. Make sure that you go back and watch the replay of this episode of the Happy Hour Show with my lovely guest, Miss Carol Muleta, parenting strategist. Again, you see her info right there, carolmuleta.com, and download your complimentary resource of conversation starters to build that connection with your children. And if you don't have children, any children in your life, I'm at carolmuleta.com/the Happy Hour Show. Visit her, reach out to her. That way you can find out where you can listen to her radio show and stay updated on her upcoming book. And then also make sure that you sign up for happy hour updates at bit.ly/happy updates. I almost messed up my own link. bit.ly/happy updates. That's bit.ly/happy updates. And sometimes my guests share happy hour specials, but only if you're on the VIP list. So make sure you stay updated and make sure you tune in this Thursday for another episode of the Happy Hour Show, 9 p.m. Eastern. Convert it to whatever time zone you are tuning in from. And with that, that is a wrap on another amazing episode of the Happy Hour Show. So I pray that everyone has an absolutely blessed evening, and I will see you in a few days. Bye.